Hi, my name is Tayler Earl, and welcome to the Wool Needles Hands podcast. Today, I'm going to share with you a sweater that recently came off my needles, is freshly blocked, and I'm going to try it on for the first time. What you may have seen in the past, my Turzo sweater by Petite Knit. I also want to share with you a sweater that you may be familiar with that I recently unearthed from a shelf way up high that for whatever reason got put on the back burner, and I'm really excited to bring this out of whatever that timeout was and get working on it again. I took it with me to Santa Fe. I started working on it and I'm really into it. And then, of course, this one here, which you've seen on Gladys over the last several months, if not over a year now. And this is another one I want to update you guys on as well and talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing with this. But before we get into any of those, let's go ahead and try on my finished Turzo sweater by Petite Knit. I am just so happy with this. It was a fun, enjoyable, kind of, I don't ever want to say, this wasn't tedious. You know, I knit the No Frills sweater by Petite Knit. Love that sweater. It's one of my favorite hand knit sweaters to wear. However, it was a tedious knit. This, on the other hand, wasn't like that. This felt like, even though it took me a long time, mostly because I set it down for so long, it really was an enjoyable sweater to knit. I think I loved just the yarn and all the colors. I knit this using, I forgot to grab this before I started, which is pretty par for the course if you ask me, but this is Noro Silk Garden Sock Solo in the Omitama colorway. And I'm pairing it with a skein of my own kid mohair silk yarn for Fiber for the People in the Eucalyptus colorway. These two come together to create such a lovely fabric. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to try this on for you. I hope you're having a great week, by the way, the great start of your week. This is back to school week for us here. My son just started 6th grade yesterday, and my youngest son just started 3rd grade. Whew, let's try this on, all right? So if you don't mind, I'm gonna change, so if you will. Okay, here it is. This was my first time putting it on. I'm gonna move this chair so I can stand up and show you how this looks. Oh my gosh. Y'all, it's fantastic. It's such a great sweater. I mean, what do I have to say about it? It's my, the ribbing at the bottom down here, for whatever reason, maybe it was because of the way I blocked it, is kind of biasing a little bit. It's like kind of tilted, or it's going this way. But I'm sure that's just because of the way that I did it. I'm not really sure, but my goodness, I love this. I love the length of the sleeves. I love the edges of the sleeves. Everything incorporates an Italian bind off. There's an Italian bind off here. Of course, this is folded over. You have an Italian bind off here. It's really beautiful. I'm very happy with this. This is great. This is a great sweater. Oh gosh. Yeah, so what's the deal with that? You know, like I know that ribbing can bias if it's something that's like picked up, if the stitches are picked up, but I'm wondering what would cause it to bias like this. If I didn't pick up any stitches, I just carried on. I'm wondering what that is. It's probably a blocking situation. Like maybe if I were to block it and just pull it this way, maybe it wouldn't do that. This is not an issue, in my opinion. I don't think this matters too much. I don't think it takes away from the overall look of the sweater. Holy crikey. I cannot wait to wear this sweater when it cools down. It is absolutely not appropriate weather for this sweater. It is muggy, it's cloudy thankfully, and it's not gonna be crazy hot today, but it's gonna be in the upper 90s, but it is muggy, and I can already feel it. Whew! Da 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 do 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 do. I'm gonna take this off, share some thoughts, and then we're gonna move on because I've talked about this sweater a lot. There's lots of videos you can actually just scroll back through and see this sweater in the thumbnails. I love it. I love it. If I had to give this, I haven't gone on to do a complete review now that I finished it, but I did do a partial review of this sweater. I gave it an overall rating of 4 stars, a clarity rating of 4 stars, and a difficulty rating. I'll pop it up on the screen so that you can see it. I think it's a great pattern. I don't know. What do you have to say about these kinds of things? Like, I know there's all kinds of people out there. They're like, no, you don't need to talk so much about Petite Knit. She's not the goddess of knitting. She's not everything. Yeah, nobody ever claimed she was, but she knows how to make a damn good knitting pattern. So What? I love it. Okay, moving on. Yeah, sorry. If you don't like Petite Knit, I don't really know what to tell you. I'm sure you have solid reasons for not liking her, and that's cool. And there you have it. So that's the Turzo sweater by Petite Knit. Highly recommend it if you would like a sweater like this one, because the pattern is excellent and the sweater is beautiful. Let's actually go ahead and talk about this one, because I don't have any progress to share other than what you see here, but just to kind of bring this out and say, hey, this is another one that I'm going to be working on this fall, because I'm in the fall of finishing. That's what I'm going into this. This is the fall of finishing fall. I think it's just the fall of finishing. The autumn of I have nothing for the autumn, but the fall of finishing, this is going to be one that I finish. This is called the Flea sweater. The Flea sweater is a pattern by Anna Inga. I hope that I'm pronouncing that right. Let's double check for the folks. Enga. Okay, so we have, I wasn't too far off. This is by Anna Inga, the Flea sweater. Now, the version of this sweater that I am knitting is the Flea sweater light for men. I chose to knit the men's version because I like this. It calls for fingering weight. I'm using sport weight. This is all Fiber for the People, born, shorn, and dyed merino rambouillet yarn. Fiber for the People is my yarn business. This is yarn that I source from Northern Nevada. It's regionally local, and I absolutely love it. I offer it in the shop. More is coming in August. That's what I'm using to knit this, and this is a sport weight. However, I find that the gauge I'm getting works out beautifully for what I need for this particular pattern. So I'm loving it. I really am. I think this is great. I added short rows. So this pattern does not call, I'm looking at the pattern as I'm talking to you about it because it's been a little while. This pattern does not call for short row shaping, and I don't particularly love that. So I added, let me move this so you can kind of see. So you can see in the contrasting solid that there are extra rows added up here. These are the short rows that I added to bring that front neck down ever so slightly. And I'm really happy that I did that. Also, another thing that I added here is a rolled neckline. If I pull this in, you can kind of see that it has a rolled neckline. I think it's beautiful. It gives it a little bit more of a solid foundation. Oh, it's getting sweaty in here. Yeah, gorgeous. And this is pretty close. I mean, the colors I chose were all from my stash of this yarn that I already had on hand. And looking at it, you can see it's pretty close to the one that is shown on Ravelry. And I think it looks great. What a cool design when you want something that has that color work look. I mean, we do have the little fleas, the little single stitch colors happening throughout here. That's where it gets that kind of flea name, right? All these little individual stitches of color. It gives it not a fair isle, but it gives it a color work, a stranded color work look that's more complicated than what it actually is. I mean, essentially we just have stripes with individual little fleas in there. And so you're definitely doing a stranded color work technique in terms of your hand motions, but it's just not nearly as complicated as it looks. It looks so, it's an eye catcher, a showstopper, if you will, maybe. I think it's great. I'm excited to pick this back up for fall finishing. Join me if you need to. I think I might start a knit along over on Patreon, actually, called Fall Finishers. And that's where we're just going to choose this fall. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, what can we do? What can we do? Spring cleaning, fall finishing, and spring cleaning. That's going to be the knit along over on Patreon. Now, maybe I won't finish this by winter, right? But let's just see it carry us through to 2027. Okay. Knit along announced right now over on the Patreon, spring cleaning and fall finishing. That's what it's going to be. Pull out those things that you know you need to finish and we'll do them together and see where we can get. But that's what the fleece sweater is all about for me. I want to get this at least back on the needles and actively going through fall and see how far I can take this. Okay, so this is a sweater number 18 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. This is a drop shoulder construction. I already lost one of my needle things. It's fine. So it has this real broad look to it. And that's because this is gonna drop like this when the sleeves are attached. We have a drop shoulder construction going on here. I'm knitting this in Kelborn Woolen's Lucky Tweed. 100% merino, 210 yards to 100 grams. It's a gorgeous color. This yarn gets really interesting mixed reviews. Some people absolutely love it for its rustic nature. It is a woolen spun tweed yarn. It has a very airy and spongy texture. It's very lightweight and it breaks easily. We have what looks to me like it could be a 2-ply. I mean, that's kind of how it looks to me. It's very thick and thin in some places. It's absolutely a rustic yarn. It is very minimally processed. And so all of that needs to be taken into consideration. When you use a yarn like this, you're going to have a fragile strand of yarn. So if you're pulling on it too much, if you're like tying it off in knots too tightly, it will break and leave you in a really precarious situation. So it has to be treated and handled with care because that's just the nature of any kind of a woolen spun yarn like this. I've really enjoyed working with it and I haven't had any issues with it breaking myself, but I do see how that can happen. So just go into knitting with something like Lucky Tweed, knowing it needs to be handled carefully. It's kind of like Brooklyn Tweed. That was how, when you got introduced to Brooklyn Tweed yarn, you realize like this is not your ordinary worsted spun yarn. You're really going to have to be more careful. I love the yarns, but again, check the reviews on this yarn on Ravelry if you're curious. It does get mixed reviews and it might be something that helps you understand if this is the right yarn for you. The only other thing is I feel as though it's very lightweight and very spongy and it doesn't have any drape. My question is, and I have not blocked this mid-knit, but my question is, will that relax after I block the sweater? I don't know. I do know that it sounds like wearing this sweater often will kind of cause the sweater to relax. There's something about just the wear of the sweater over time that will soften it and allow it to relax. I just see this here and it makes me a little nervous. Like, is this gonna relax after I wear it with the weight of the sleeves? I'm fairly confident that it will, but right now it is not necessarily next to skin. I would definitely wear something under this, but it's very lightweight for what it is because of the yarn. So if I did decide to wear something under this, it wouldn't feel like I'm wearing a lot of extra weight. It's nice and lightweight, much lighter than my Turzo sweater. Once this is finished, it would be interesting to weigh the two and see. The sample that is knit in the picture is knit with mohair, and I imagine that softens it up quite a bit. I don't remember exactly why I chose not to go the mohair route, but I think it's because I really wanted the texture of the Lucky Tweed to shine through. And it really does. It's got the texture from the actual pattern itself. I'm not sure if you can make that out, but you can see there's lots of really lovely knit and purl texture, which I love. I love adding some knits and purls to create interesting texture in knit fabric. You don't always have to get that with cables. You can get really cool, chunky texture with just knits and purls, and that's what's happening here. But it also maintains the really interesting nature and texture and just visual appeal of the yarn as well, and I love that. So yeah, this is really a great sweater. I'm excited to have found it. At this point, I've knit, when I pulled it out of hibernation, I had just connected the sleeves, connected the underarms. And now I have about 5 inches of body knit so far. And I feel good to have this much progress. It's almost like starting a project midway through. You don't have to go through all of the stuff because you already did it. It's like you trick your brain into thinking you've made more progress than you have. So I'm excited to get going with this. Sweater number 18 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. Lucky Tweed. I enjoy Lucky Tweed, but you definitely want to check the reviews to see if it's right for you, or in the very least get to a yarn shop where you can feel it. It's hard to say it's so soft. It's not. It's toothy and rustic, but I sort of love that. All right, so there you have it. 3 sweaters that are, one of them is finished. So fall finishing, I finished it in the summer. Can't necessarily count it, but it is kind of a catalyst into this fall finishing for me and now knit along. Of these other 2 sweaters, I'm hoping to have them finish, the Flea sweater and sweater number 18 this fall. I think it would be great if I could have them finished before fall is over, because I have some yarn that I've showed you before, but I want to bring it back out because I have a sweater I would really like to cast on in the winter time. All right, guys, if you would like to join the knit along for fall finishing and spring cleaning, please head over to the Patreon. It's a great place to find lots of fun additional content, and it's a great way to help support the work that I'm doing here to provide free content right here on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.